Hello everyone, I'm glad you made it to this live streaming of our presentation on the NextGen, or Generation Next as we call them. It's a combination of Millennials, Generation Y and Generation Z. If you have any questions during this session, you can always tweet them using our @InSites Twitter account, as you can see on screen. Or if you don't have Twitter, you can send an email to Natalie at insites-consulting.com. Or if you have a Gmail account or a YouTube account, you can use the chat box below this screen actually, and just give your comments and your questions as well during our session. So today we're going to talk to you about the next generation, and these are my contact details. It's a story about the differences between the next generation and the older generations. But let's first start with a bit of music. So why are we studying this next generation? The past 3 to 4 years, I've actually been doing a lot of in-company workshops, presentations on conferences on the subject of millennials, or the Generation Y, they're also called. And typically after these presentations, I get 2 questions. The first one being, are you really sure there are these differences between millennials on one hand and other generations? Many people in the audience felt that they were, even though they were older, Gen X, like myself, or baby boomer, they felt they had the same type of feelings and values, the same typeset. So they asked me, can you prove that there is a difference with other generations? And the second question was, what's up next? What's after Generation Y? The next generation, Generation Z, are they different than millennials? What are the differences? And these were 2 questions that up till now it was hard to respond to, because we hadn't really done some research among these specific different generations. So that's why we actually did a large new survey. We did it in April this year, where we interviewed 10,000 people in 8 countries, including the US, but some European countries as well as Australia. And we specifically looked for differences between the 4 generations. So the baby boomers, parents of the millennials, 51 to 69-year-olds, Gen X, parents of Generation Z, so 36 to 50-year-olds, and then, of course, the millennials, my favorite subject, and the next generation, Generation Z, all together in this one survey, trying to find the differences and the similarities of this generation. Now, one of the topics we actually included in the survey was how much money do they have? And so we asked the youngest, how high is your weekly allowance? What do you get as a weekly allowance? And I will ask you rhetorically a few questions while you're watching this seminar. The first one is actually, what do you think was the response in the US? So how many 4 to 10-year-olds in the US get a weekly allowance, you think? You think it's the left option, the blue option, 53%, or is it rather 10% lower, so 43%, the red option to the right of the screen? What do you think? The result of our survey actually showed that it was 53%. It's also the global average, 53% of the youngest, you could say, 4 to 10-year-olds get a weekly allowance. If you look at the total Generation Z population, so 4 to 18-year-olds, they on average get 11.5 euros a week, whereas millennials, Generation Y, get 24.5 euros, at least the ones who are still living with their parents and still getting an allowance on a weekly basis. Now, the good news is that all of this money is actually also spent. So 80% of the weekly allowance is spent by Generation Z and by millennials, and only 20% is saved. If you look at the categories that they're actually spending their money on, it's a combination of buying clothes, so fashion items, but also not fish, but chocolate snacks, often candy bars, sweets is an important category, especially for the youngest ones, for Generation Z. their mobile phone apps, but also their subscription. Going out and hobbies are the main categories for youth spendings. So part of the power of NextGen, Gen Y and Gen Z, is actually spending their own money, spending not only their weekly allowance, but also the bonuses they get from parents, but also from aunts and uncles. For everything that they do well, like a good school result, they get extra money, of course, and they spend it. Another part of this power is not only spending their own money, but they're also influencing the money of their parents, of course. So that's the next question. What do you think are they influencing the most? Is it the food they are consuming at home, together with their parents often? Or is it rather the technologies they adopt? Meaning if their parents want to buy a new phone, or they want to buy a new laptop, or a watch, an Apple Watch, for instance, or they want to get a subscription on Netflix, do they ask the opinion of their children? So where do you think is the biggest influence of next gen? Food or technologies? What we saw in the results of our study is that actually these are the top two categories. So the number one was actually the food they consume at home, also in the US, and the technologies they adopt are also, half of the parents even say that their children in next gen are influencing the kind of technologies they're buying. And it's not stopping with these two categories, it's also influencing the bars and restaurants they visit, the TV programs they watch, often they watch it together. It's a quality moment, quality time with their kids in the couch at home. So they're influencing TV programming, also holiday destinations, products, services they buy, and even the retail, so the stores they tend to visit. So it's clear that the next gen has a strong impact, strong influence on their parents as well, which is also the reason why we tend to study these younger generations. So in the rest of this 35-minute presentation, I will focus on some typical DNA characteristics of the younger generations, Y and Z, when comparing them to the older ones. And so again, I have a question that we also asked in the survey we did globally, and it's all about multi-screening, you could say. The question is actually, who do you think is messaging the most with their friends while they are watching TV content? And it's either Generation Z, so 4 to 18-year-olds, or the 19 to 35-year-olds, the millennials, or Generation Y. Who do you think is messaging the most? And you all already see that we're using the WhatsApp symbols, but also Snapchat. So what do you think is used the most while watching TV content? In our research, we saw that it's actually the youngest ones. And we asked them what kind of activities they do while watching TV, not only to Gen Z and Gen Y, by the way, but also to the baby boomers, of course, and the Gen X. And in the graph, you will see the orange bar is the Generation Z. And when it comes to messaging, that's much higher compared to the other generations. Whereas both next gen, Gen Y and Gen Z, are using social media while they're watching TV. It's typically the youngest ones that are actually chatting about the content or chatting in general with their friends while they're also watching TV. That brings me to the first DNA characteristic of the next generation, what we have called the I am snappy aspect. They are snappy, they're witty, they're direct, they're efficient, and they like to use the new media to be constantly in touch with their friends, of course. So what do you think was the most popular word they were using while texting, while messaging with their friends in the past year? You probably are thinking about lol or haha or perhaps selfie. But it's a tricky question because when we look at the results, then you see that visuals, emojis and emoticons are used a lot more by the youngest than text. So texting has actually become giving with a GIF, or using emojis, and that's why we call them the emotional generation. I have two Gen Z daughters myself, aged 11 and a half. It's quite important to say the details. 11 and a half and 8 and a few weeks. And if they send me messages, they look like this. To them, it's the most snappy, the most efficient way to communicate with me. To me, as a poor dad, I'm trying to figure out what they're trying to tell me. And often they're not even trying to tell me anything at all. They just want to show me that they thought of me and were sending me a message. But again, if you look at the type of messages they're creating, they are not using a lot of text, and they use the X, but not many other letters, actually. So how many of you are using this type of communications? And I don't mean just using emojis, but sending purely visual communications, you could say. I hope many of you are, because research from an online dating site, Match.com, has shown that people who use emojis have a higher chance of, of having a nice time, you could say, at night or at breakfast. I don't care. So Match.com found out that the more extrovert people are actually using more emojis, more visual type of communication as well. So they use the frisky cat, for instance, or the cha-cha lady. The cha-cha lady means that you're actually, as a lady, you're in for some fun tonight. And we already saw Katerina Zeta-Jones on the Golden Globes red carpet event imitating the cha-cha emoji lady to actually communicate that she was looking for some fun, probably that same night. Now, what does that mean for brands? What can we do with this as a marketer? Actually, it means that most of our communications still carry too much text. And if you look at IKEA as a retailer, they already introduced their own emoticon library. So if you want to chat with your friends about your visit to the IKEA store or about your recent, the recent furniture you've bought at IKEA, you can just use the images that are providing, that are actually facilitating the customers to communicate about. Also, McDonald's has their own emoji library, of course, including a Big Mac or a double, what's that? A double Big Mac. And Colette, the hipster store in France, in Paris, asked McDonald's to use their emojis and print them on a limited edition t-shirt collection, capsule collection, to sell t-shirts actually to hip people using the emojis from McDonald's. There's also Mentos in the candy market that is, has created this type of emanticons, they call it.
Ever had the fear of missing out on the greatest party of all time? Introducing FOMO. A fresh way to express yourself. Brought to you by Mentos.
So the clever part of this is that they're actually using the product, the shape of the product, to introduce their own emanticons. And it's a new way of communicating with young people. One trend related to that is the usage of ephemeral media. Ephemeral means it's there for a moment and then it's gone. Like typically Snapchat, for instance, maximum 10 seconds of a message. Often it's less than 10 seconds. And some content providers like Viacom are already using this type of media to actually distribute content that can only be viewed when using Snapchat, when you're actually connected to their account. So it's a good way to get to snap the attention actually of the youngest generation, because if you only have a few seconds to digest a message, it really draws your attention. And one of the things that Microsoft found out in a recent study is that the attention span of the next generation is rather short. It's even, they say it's shorter than the attention span of a goldfish, which is 9 seconds. And in their study, they saw a decline in the attention span of young people to only 8 seconds. Some social media like Vine recognize that, and they're actually using short formats. Vine videos only 6 seconds, and this is one of my favorite Vine videos. 6 seconds, you cannot get bored when you watch 6 seconds of videos. And of course, if Miley Cyrus is involved in a big belly, then it's really wonderful content. So that's fine. You have Snapchat, ephemeral media. There's also live streaming. Live streaming, like today, actually has the advantage that you can really connect with people. People have to watch the stream actually to be aware of what's happening. And so it's the ultimate ephemeral, you could say. Periscope, for instance, has been used by Red Bull when they were streaming their live BMX events or rock events. Meerkat has been used by L'Oreal when they were announcing a new product, when they were launching a new product with a red carpet event as well. So this is typically something you would use if you have something big happening, and it's in the moment. It's something that you want to see when it's really happening. Another trend related to being snappy is the age of impatience. We're becoming more impatient, and we can see that even in the streets today. This is an example of a Chinese city where the people that are using their mobile phone have to take the slower lane to the right side, whereas the ones who are faster can take another lane. And also in shopping malls in the US, you see there's a slow lane and a fast lane. Slow lane for people watching the windows, and the fast lane for people that really know where they're going. Because people get annoyed if they have to queue. And that's also something that retailers understand today. That's the phygital trend, combining your physical store with helping them with the pre-sales in a digital way. For instance, Starbucks is doing this experiment in Portland, Oregon, connecting 120 stores with a mobile app where you can pre-order your coffee, your doppio, or your sandwich with your mobile phone. And it's already prepaid. You just have to pick it up in the store. You don't have to queue anymore. Other restaurants, fast service restaurants, or fast casual restaurants like Kentucky Fried Chicken are actually doing the same with their Express app. So it's all about delivering on demand. Now, translating this to your branding and to your marketing, to your communication campaign, it would mean probably that our formats, 20 seconds of video, 30 seconds of video, 1 minute of video, are too long. So perhaps we should create shorter formats. Now, I don't agree. I think if you have compelling content, if you have the right things to tell to people, then you can still keep their attention. And I think this Geico ad and campaign actually on YouTube for an car insurance company is a good example of that.
Don't thank me. Thank the savings.
You can't skip this Geico ad because it's already over. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
One minute and 2 seconds of video footage, and you still want to watch what will happen next. And of course, animals and children, it always works in advertising, but they had 7.3 million views in only 2 weeks' time with a long format video on YouTube. And of course, they had the first 5 seconds were the message of the ad campaign. You probably don't even remember what they were telling, but the brand was in there like one whole minute, and people were watching the video. Now, NextGen is also an on-demand generation. They want the on-demand experience. And companies like Uber are actually the market leader in delivering on demand. Not only their cars and rides very fast in your neighborhood, but also fresh meals, for instance, using the same network of drivers within 10 minutes at your home, or 7-Eleven items also within the 10-minute promise. So that's the way new economy is taking care of this on-demand need of the next consumer. There's also Amazon. Amazon is actually using these physical dash buttons that you can stick yourself anywhere you like. So you can stick them next to your mirror or on your washing machine. So the minute you actually are in need of new washing detergent or shavers, you actually just push the button physically and it automatically orders the stuff online at Amazon, of course, and it gets delivered on the same day. You can always cancel your order within 30 minutes, but it's easy. You don't have to grab for your phone. You don't have to go online. You can just order it by pushing a button. So that's the on-demand experience. We were talking about being snappy as the first characteristic of the next generation. The second characteristic is all about their dreams, ambitions, and fears. And they are dreaming of creating a better society and a better world. And I have another question again to ask to you, same question we've asked in our study. Who would be the most in favor of gender equality? Would that be the baby boomer generation, 51 to 69-year-olds, or rather the millennials, 19 to 35-year-olds? Who is the most in favor of gender equality, you think? To our own surprise, and probably to your surprise as well, it's the baby boomer generation, so the parents of the millennials. And these are the results. What we see is that baby boomers are more open to gender equality and agree less on statements like it's in the nature of women to stay at home and raise a family, whereas millennials are more like Gen X. And then there's Gen Z, the orange bar, that's the most in favor of gender equality. To Gen Z, actually, gender equality is the norm. And so one trend that we see happening in society is blurring gender lines, the blurred gender. You probably know this girl. She's called Shiloh, the daughter of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. What happened in 2015 is that Brad and Angelina decided to call her John, to give her the name of a boy, because Shiloh actually feels more like a boy since she was only 3 years old. And so this pre-definition of genders, that's changing in society. My other friend, Miley Cyrus, actually has already commented on this definition of genders. She says, I don't agree with this line between males and females. I don't know which category I belong to. And so it's less important to look at things from a male or female point of view. This is celebrities, but we also see this happening in fashion. This item, the jeans the girls are wearing, is actually called boyfriend jeans, as you probably know. It's a way of wearing a jeans like your boyfriend would do it. So it's actually females wearing a male jeans. And when I was in Scandinavia a few weeks ago and last weekend in Milan, fashion cities, you see the hipsters, boys, actually wearing their jeans like the girlfriends are wearing the boyfriend jeans. So if you're still following me, it's quite confusing. It's actually the proof that there is no difference anymore between male fashion and female fashion. And many brands, many luxury brands, Gucci, Prada, Givenchy, Saint Laurent, they all have gender-neutral collections today. And the department store Selfridges even has a 3-story pop-up store that is selling 40 different brands of clothes, not separately for boys and for girls, just one collection in the shop that's gender neutral or a gender in their case. Now this is celebrities and fashion. You could still say, okay, but that's a separate part of society. They always are a bit progressive. Let's take a look at a more traditional brand, Walt Disney, for instance, in content creation. These were the type of narratives that Walt Disney was using until 2009. So they had a girl, beautiful girl often, cleaning the house or preparing meals for dwarfs. And then suddenly a prince comes along and they kiss, they fall in love, or they first fall in love and then they kiss, not sure what's the right order. And then they get invited to the castle, and there they marry, they get kids together, and then she can clean the castle and prepare some meals for the new dwarfs, the children they have. But it's a very traditional role pattern. That was until 2009. What happened in 2009 in the type of content that Disney is creating is this type of phenomenon. In 2009, suddenly you have The Princess and the Frog with Tiana in a lead role. In 2010, there's Rapunzel in Tangled, again, female lead character. And in 2013, there's the most successful Disney movie ever, and within the top 10 blockbusters, every type of movie ever. That's Frozen, of course, with Anna and Elsa. All about female bonding, sisterhood of the two girls. So suddenly boys are less important. It's not the prince that is deciding upon the rest of the story. It's all about the girls that are deciding, in this case, the storyline, but also society. Now, when we look at Mattel, Mattel has, of course, the Barbie doll. And we know there's a lot of criticisms about Barbie, the way that Barbie is representing a female body, not in a natural way. And they actually created this doll. It's called the Barbie Entrepreneur. But she's still wearing a tight pink dress, jewels, makeup, and high heels, and also being an entrepreneur. Now, what's happening with Mattel is that in the past four years, the sales figures of the Barbie doll are going down. So Mattel actually decided to launch a new line, a new product line, that's based on the concept of heroism. So female heroes, you could say, superheroes. They're launching this later this fall for the Christmas season, together with Warner Brothers and DC Comics. That's kids content. If we look at adult content or young adult content, you would see Game of Thrones with strong female characters, also House of Cards with a strong character, and The Hunger Games, Divergent, some other movies today, they all have female lead characters. So it's clear that it's not just blurring gender, it's also female empowerment is important in society and more in branding and in business as well. It's something that Procter & Gamble also understood, and one of their most successful campaigns they have done in the past years was started at the end of last year with the Like a Girl campaign.
I score like a girl. I do chemistry like a girl. I rock run like a girl. I play sand volleyball like a girl. I fight like a girl. I calculate like a girl. Play like a girl. Play tennis like a girl. Win like a girl. I can spin like a girl. 我学球像女孩一样。
I shoot like a girl.
Je monte à cheval comme une fille.
I do trapeze like a girl.
Yo ando molto come niña.
I lose like a girl. I run. Flip. I fall like a girl.
So this new campaign for Always was quite successful, more than 100 million views online, and also one of the most buzzed campaigns during the Super Bowl, last Super Bowl, and also one of the best evaluated spots during the Super Bowl. And of course, it's the strategy that Dove, the Unilever brand, has been doing with the campaign for Real Beauty, but it's clear that Procter & Gamble understood why this Dove brand is so successful for Unilever. It's the first $4 billion brand that Unilever actually created just by using this campaign for Real Beauty. So now there's the Like a Girl campaign. So that's all about Dreaming of a Better World. First part, blurring gender equality. There's also another part that has to do with the main concerns of the next generation. And again, there's this question, who do you think is the most concerned about health problems and virus outbreaks like Ebola, for instance? Do you think it's the baby boomers, or is it rather Generation Z? Perhaps you thought it was the baby boomers because they're older, they suffer from some health problems, but the real answer is actually Generation Z. And in the results, we see that the top two issues to generations, whether it's the young generation or the older generation, are terrorism and the economic crisis. But we do see that the economic crisis and unemployment is less important to the youngest, to Generation Z, the orange bar in the graph. Well, because many of them are not actually confronted with that yet, they are not finding a job yet, but it's more present for millennials, for instance. When we focus on the orange bars again, Generation Z, the youngest ones, you would see that racism and radicalism is more important. Also climate issues, global warming, not only for Gen Z, but also to millennials is more important. So they clearly are more involved with society, with the environment, and it could be a life stage because it's typically something the youngest people have, but it's also a new type set of values. This young guy, not sure if you know who it is, it's a Dutch boy called Boyan Slat. He came up with an idea to clean the oceans. So perhaps you've heard of the ocean cleanup. This guy at his 17, during his holiday, came up with the idea to create giant arms within the ocean, using the ocean tides actually to collect the plastic in the ocean and to remove the plastic from the ocean. And he got an interview with John Kerry and the funding also to start doing this from 2020. Now, some brands understand that this environment thing is important, and G-Star Row even launched their recycled ocean plastic jeans already, using Pharrell as a spokesperson. But they show that they care about the environment. They show that they're also dreaming of a better world. So they are actually connecting with the youngest generation in this way. One new business model that we've seen in the past years is actually called the 1-for-1 business model. Buy one and donate one. And the brand you're thinking of when you think of 1-for-1 is, of course, Tom's shoes, a very successful, popular brand among the NextGen. If you buy a pair of Tom's shoes, you're at the same time donating a pair of shoes to children who are in need of shoes and cannot afford them. So Tom's Shoes, for instance, has actually distributed 300,000 pairs of shoes to poor children just based on this 1-for-1 business model. Now, another trend related to dreaming of a better world is actually enoughism. If we look at youth, we often are talking about binge behavior, whether it's binge drinking or binge watching on Netflix. At a certain point, even young people feel that it's enough. And so that's called enoughism. We see clubs in Stockholm rising, like Sober. Sober is not selling any alcohol at all, just alcohol-free beers and mocktails. We see breakfast raves or lunch break raves, people partying in the morning or during lunch while just drinking smoothies or soft drinks, but at least no alcohol and not using drugs. And there's, of course, a lot of challenges online on Facebook, like 20 days without meat or a meat-free Monday every week, like McCartney is supporting. There's also 30 days without a car, there's 40 days without sex, or 50 days without using shampoo. Typical examples of enoughism that are actually disrupting some of your businesses, perhaps. If you're producing shampoo or in the meat business, well, you know that you have to take care of these issues and to find a solution to show actually that you also are aware of this enoughism trend. Now I come to the last DNA characteristic for this presentation, and it's all about this question. What brand characteristic do you think is the most important for Generation Z? Would it be being socially engaged, or would it rather be allowing hyper-personalization? So as you can see, Coke is doing both, socially engaged or personalizing. When it comes to the youngest, Generation Z, it's all about hyper-personalization, and these are the results. I know the bars are quite small in this graph, but allowing personalization is almost number one for Generation Z in the US. Number one is actually being trendy, so trendiness, coolness becomes more important again for the youngest generation, where this was less the case for millennials. Status even is more important for the youngest ones. but personalizing is the most important, especially if you compare it to being socially engaged. Socially engaged, as you can see, or not, or you can't see it, but I will explain it. The greenish bar is much higher when it comes to being socially engaged. So the green bar is actually the millennial generation. There it was all about being socially engaged, whereas now being personalized is more important to them. So the last characteristic is actually I am creating something myself. That's the maker movement. And Gen X, my own generation, was all about status and prestige. They were also always showing off that they have a great career, that they're making money, whereas millennials, Generation Y, were more collectively thinking. One of the values of the baby boomer parents was actually doing things together and achieving stuff together. So co-creations, collaborations, and flash mobs, for instance, on wedding parties are typically something you would see with millennials. Whereas if you think of the Generation Z, the youngest ones, they are more aware of their own strengths again, because they're the children actually of Generation X, who was more individual than baby boomers as a parent as well. So suddenly skills become more important again. And a good example is what Nike has been doing actually in the past 9 years, since 2006. They have the Nike Academy, where they're trying to find young, talented soccer players worldwide to compete against other soccer players, first regionally, and then actually the best can train together with the stars and the celebrities, the athletes that Nike is sponsoring, to improve their own skills and to become a better soccer player themselves. And actually the Nike Academy has 39 alumni already that are now working for one of the first league teams across the world. So the me-economy, creating something yourself, is more important to Generation Z, which is also the reason why PepsiCo, that used to do co-creation campaigns, like create an own flavor and then they manufactured the flavor for the entire market. They're today doing this type of summer campaigns last summer. So you can create your own bag of chips, print your picture on it, your own slogan on it, and then the first 10,000 best entrants of the competition got their own box of personalized chips and crisps at home. Another example of this being empowered to hyper-personalize is this very successful game called Minecraft. Minecraft has more than 100,000 active players today, and especially very successful with Generation Z, because they're actually creating the game, setting the environment themselves, and it also has inspired Lego to introduce the same kind of online game. Now, one of the success factors is clearly that you create your own houses and your own environment. Another typical thing about Minecraft is the almost ugly graphics, you could say. It looks like it's developed in the 1980s. That's my age, when I was raised. And the game itself was only developed in 1 week of time, but it has been bought by Microsoft for $3.5 billion because it's so successful. And it means, as a conclusion, that perfection is rather dull to Generation Z, to the youngest ones. So it's more, it's better actually to create imperfections in your products. Perhaps the products that you're producing are too perfect, because if it looks too perfect, too manufactured, then it doesn't have this artisanal crafts feeling. Talking about craft foods, for instance, spent 2 years in an R&D lab to create carving board sliced turkey breasts. That it looks like you have sliced it yourself tonight, and that's what consumers want today, not the pre-manufactured meat. So imperfections become the new perfection, and if you look at the kind of celebrities that are really scoring well with the youngest generations, it's always imperfect people, whether it's Jennifer Lawrence or Lena Dunham, for instance, the creator of Girls HBO series. Lena is quite open about her medical problems, about her history, but she's also able to create a fantastic series like the Girls series. So typically for Gen Z, you could say, is the philosophy. It's good and it's nice that you can have imperfections, that you have flaws, that you're able to fail. And so we see events like Fuck Up Nights or fail conferences where young entrepreneurs, 14, 16, 18-year-olds, are actually talking about the mistakes they've made when starting up their own business. That's something a Generation Xer would have never done. So to them, actually, failure is an option, and that's something new. If you look at YouTube, where you're now watching this stream, there's 30 million videos on YouTube that are called fail videos, the top fails of the week. So suddenly failing is the new achieving. Why? Because it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than actually to be absolutely boring. And I would like to end this presentation before I wrap it up with this latest campaign of Nike women.
Yes, the middle seat's open. They look so non-judgmental. I don't trust that.
No shame in running half a half marathon.
2 miles?
Oh, good. A bunch of models right in front of me.
Okay, yoga. Changed my life.
And focus on something else.
Why are there so many mirrors?
Don't mind me over here, little baby weights, baby arms. What am I even doing?
This is actually weirdly motivating.
I love running. It's really fun. Exercise reduces stress.
Steady. I got this.
Oh, I can't. Almost there.
I can't.
Breathe. I can't. I did it.
Let's go again.
So this is Nike, the brand behind Just Do It, the brand that was all about athletes and achieving sports results. And suddenly they changed their tone of voice in this way. So the spot is full of I can'ts, and okay, in the end they achieve a goal, but it's in a more human, in a more natural way, the way that actually people are doing sports. We are not all athletes. We want everyone to be involved with sports. And Nike understood that using this in their communication, in their commercial, is actually good because it's more reflecting the way that people are living today. So to wrap up this presentation, we were talking about the DNA of NextGen, Generation Y, 19 to 35, and Generation Z, 4 to 18-year-olds. They are snappy, they are dreaming of a better world, and they're making it. They want to make something. And we also were discussing 6 different consumer trends, you could call them: ephemeral media, the age of impatience, the on-demand economy, blurred gender, and enoughism as 2 illustrations of how we can improve society. It's just 2 illustrations. We were also talking about the one-for-one business model that Tom Shoes is using. And then in the end, if you want to create something yourself, we're talking about the me-economy, hyper-personalization, but also the imperfections and the coolness of flows. Now, again, if you translate this to our business as a marketer and branding, if they're snappy and they're using snappy media, if you want to connect with them using the same type of media, you have to become snappy yourself, which means you have to create content on a daily basis. If you want to use Snapchat or video, it means you need to have the content. So you need to become a content brand. You also need to deliver fast, faster than ever. So you have to become a fast on-demand brand. If they're dreaming of a better world, they will ask you, how are you helping us to create a better world? So how are you as a brand actually tapping into this trend of improving society? Do we have a larger point of view, not just trying to sell something, but also doing something for society? So macro positioning, you could say. And if they want to create something themselves with imperfections, perhaps we're selling too many perfect products. We are not allowing imperfections. We're not allowing the craft feeling. We're not allowing the artisanal, personalized, hyper-personalized feeling. So that's the micro-me positioning, you could call it. So 6 trends and 3 DNA characteristics to sum up my presentation. I want to thank you all for your attention. If you want to reach out to me, you can also always send me a tweet. That's my Twitter address. Or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I also have a blog, howcoolbrandsstayhot.com, that's connected to the branding book. If you still have, we still have some minutes for questions. You can always tweet them to my Twitter address or to the @insights address. Then we can respond to them right now in the live streaming. Or you can send an email to natalie@insights-consulting.com or just use the YouTube chat box. Are there any questions?
Well, we received one question, and it's via email on, isn't the personalization trend in a contradiction with the fact that they want to change the world, so the we versus me aspect? Yep. How does that combine?
Okay, so the question is on, for Generation Z specifically, they have a typical me aspect, the hyper-personalization. They want to achieve something individually, which is opposing the we thinking of millennials. And how do you combine that with a broader societal thinking and the dreaming of a better world? I think it's typically an and generation. And even if you look at the one-for-one business model, it's both. You cannot use a one-for-one business model if you're not a cool brand. So Tom Shoes works because, okay, you're donating shoes, but also people like the branding and they like the shoes. So you need to connect with them on an individual level, and how are you helping them to achieve something or to buy something, but also on the societal level. Even if you're working for a not-for-profit organization, for instance, you cannot just ask them to donate money. You will need to allow them to have a personal impact on the type of goals they're actually sponsoring or supporting, that they can choose goals that are close or near to them, or at least they have a say in the type of goals that are sponsoring by donating their money. So it's and it's individual impact, but also doing something for society. No further questions at the moment. If you do have more questions, you can either use these, or again, contact me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. And I hope this session was inspiring to all of you. If it was, we do this type of sessions not just once, but we have a series of them. The next one online is the next webinar is on December the 1st this year. It's called the Mimification of Insights, and I would recommend you personally to connect again and to watch it, because we will present the paper that has been awarded on the last Global ESOMAR conference with this specific, what is it called? Fernanda Monti Award 2015. So if you want to know why this paper won the award and learn more about mimifications of insights, come back to us on December the 1st online, and I hope to see you or meet you somewhere across the world soon. Thanks a lot for your interest. See you. Good night. Or have a nice day.